Game of Thrones Season 7 has brought us many good things, one of which was the fact that we got to see Nymeria on screen. We haven't seen her on screen since way back in Season 1. Another thing that was missing, so to speak, was Ghost. We honestly did not see him at all. I think there may be a little bit more besides the fact that Direwolves are extremely costly to render. There may be a little bit more to that. In this video, I want to discuss the fact that Ghost and Nymeria may in fact link up in Season 8 and lead a giant wolf army into battle. Because you guys are so amazing and awesome, I am actually having a giveaway for a $50 Amazon gift card, and all you have to do to enter the contest for a chance to win this gift card is slap a like on this video, make sure you leave a comment down below, go ahead and subscribe, and then last but not least, turn your notifications on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones video throughout this long night. Also, go ahead and check the gleam.io link down below in the description for all the different bonus ways to enter the contest and win. Direwolves are an unusually large and intelligent species of wolf. A gray direwolf on a white field is actually the sigil for House Stark. An adult direwolf is as large as a small horse and can rip a man's arm from its socket. Even a juvenile direwolf is quite capable of killing a man by ripping out his throat. Thus, you have this example with young Bran. Physically, they are not simply larger versions of wolves, but have slightly different proportions than their smaller cousins. Their heads are large with a leaner and more pronounced muzzle, their legs are longer in proportion to their body, and they have proportionally larger teeth and are often used to crush bones. Direwolves can give births to litters of at least 6 puppies. Direwolves are awesome in BA, we get it, but why were they not more prevalent in Game of Thrones Season 6 and more than just seeing them in one episode in Season 7 rather? We honestly don't really know how much it costs to render a CGI direwolf. They are massive, and in order to get them realistic, I'm sure they cost upwards of about $1 million to maybe $2 million depending upon how long they are on screen. The process of rendering something in CGI is labor intensive and a grueling process in order to make something look perfect. With Game of Thrones insanely high standards that they've set for themselves, we can understand why they would, maybe kind of step back from that, seeing as how the massive battles we had in Season 7. We had 2 large battles, and then, we technically had one north of the wall, so that can even count as one, and then they skipped over one, but regardless, that battle scene probably cost as much as animating a direwolf on scene close up for a few minutes. Luckily, with Season 8 of Game of Thrones, we know this is going to be the final 6 episodes that this show, in this iteration rather, will be on screen. So they're going to be going all out. Last season, we had a roughly estimated budget of anywhere between $12 and $15 million per episode, and that was only for 7 episodes. Imagine, with 1 episode left, and then just a gradually increased budget over every season, we could be looking at anywhere from $15 to $20 million per episode for Game of Thrones. So this means that they won't be cutting any battles. We're going to get battles, dragons, and direwolves. Now, this is just my opinion in regards to the budget. We haven't actually officially seen any numbers yet come out, but I can imagine that with the increased volume of the amount of crap that's going to be going on in the episode, or stories that are going to be concluding rather, they're going to be going all out. So with that being said, a lot of the budget could be spent on those battles, but when there's episodes where there aren't a battle, honestly, I think these battles in Season 8, a lot of that CGI budget is going to be used to render the White Walkers. Hopefully we get, maybe 2 or 3 skirmishes with them, and then some large battle. And I doubt that's actually going to go down, but that's just how I would like to see it. I want to see everything to 11. But with that said, this increased money level definitely leaves some options on the table for us to see more direwolves. Now, I think obvious speculation, the reason why we didn't see Ghost so much in Season 7 is because it cost a lot and we had a lot of stuff going on. But there could also be something else going on there. In the novels, or in the original outline of the novels rather, Arya and Jon Snow were meant to be together. Now, that is a little bit weird. Okay, I take that back. That's a lot weird, and that's never going to happen on the TV show. And most likely, it's never going to happen in the novels. Now, there actually is a little bit of foreshadowing. During one of Jon Snow's wolf dreams, one of his many wolf dreams, he can actually sense that his brothers and sisters are near him in presence. So a lot of people think that this is foreshadowing to the fact that the direwolves have some sort of internal GPS and they know where their siblings are located. So, if Ghost was missing in action almost all of Season 7, well, we didn't see him on screen, he was briefly mentioned by Sansa, but what if he went down to track Nymeria? Now, honestly, I know that seems a little bit crazy. Like, why would he leave protecting Jon Snow and House Stark to go and find Nymeria? Well, they know something is coming. Now, what I mean by that is the fact that dragons and direwolves have intelligence levels similar to certain humans. So if a dragon can sense who's Targaryen and who trusts their mother, a direwolf can do the same. They are highly intelligent creatures and would know when there's a threat of danger looming. Obviously, it was for budgetary reasons, but I predict that the reason why Ghost was gone in Game of Thrones Season 7 for most of his potential on-screen time was because he's trying to meet up with Nymeria. They both know that the threat of the undead is real, and honestly, Ghost has seen the whites for himself. I honestly, when trying to figure this out, I've realized that having two direwolves on screen, and they have to be on screen with an actor, is even more costly than just rendering one with regular wolves surrounding them. But the fact that we had them left out for so long, that just means that they're going to be going all out. I honestly see that when we do see them, I see Ghost and Nymeria appearing on screen together with Jon Snow and Arya. I think that their direwolves will eventually show back up as soon as Jon Snow makes it back to Winterfell. Now, we don't exactly know what Nymeria has been doing this whole time, but she's been definitely building a giant pack for a reason. Now, I think that in the novels, the Direwolves and the Starks have more of a connection, and the reason why that was written off the TV show was simply for budgetary reasons, like, you know, it costs so much to render their direwolves on screen, so they just kind of pushed them to the side. But the connection is still there. I honestly think that the reason why Nymeria has been building this super pack is because she knows the dead are coming. She knows that they will be south of the wall, and she has to be ready to defend House Stark. So who's to say that this whole time Nymeria has been MIA, she hasn't been doing just that, protecting House Stark? Maybe she's been keeping certain Lannisters from getting too close, and maybe what she was doing right here in this scene with Arya was protecting her because Arya was about to get rolled on by some Lannisters. Now, we all know that's probably not what was about to happen, but in this scene, Dan and Dave actually explained to us that when Arya tells Nymeria that that's not her, she's actually repeating a line she said to her father, Ned Stark, when Ned was fantasizing about what her future would be like, that she would be a lady and that she would marry some great lord and have children and basically be just like Sansa. But that's not the case. Arya says, that's not me. So when she says, that's not you to Nymeria, right after she asked Nymeria to come home, she realizes that Nymeria's place is not at home. And Arya herself, her place is not at home. I think Arya may end up going west to Westeros, and the fact that Nymeria is... Wait, before I go into further in that theory, I don't even have to say nothing. You can actually click the link right up here, and that'll take you to a video I did a few days back explaining my Nymeria and Arya connection. Yeah, so go check out that video, but basically, in summary, I mentioned how the fact that Nymeria, the original Nymeria, who Arya's direwolf is named after, led a pack of refugees to a new land. Arya mentioning that she wants to go west to Westeros, and then Nymeria leading a pack of refugee wolves is very similar, and Arya may lead a band of refugees to a new land after all the wars are said and done, if she survives. Now, spoiler alert for this next part, go ahead and click out the video now if you don't want to know anything about the filming aspect of Game of Thrones Season 8. Recently, we found out that Winterfell was actually set on fire, and then later we found out that the fire may not actually be burning Winterfell, and it may be on the outside of Winterfell to perhaps make some sort of firewall to keep the whites out. If this is the case, then this would be the perfect chance for the Direwolf army to show up. Now, we do know that whatever the cost they take to render on screen, it's mostly not going to be repeated. We're likely going to see them in one episode and maybe partly in another episode. So if that's the case, who's to say that this Ghost and Nymeria led Wolf army doesn't show up and save some of the members of House Stark in the last seconds? I honestly think that there will maybe be only one direwolf remaining if we're lucky. But let's just be honest. We're going to be appreciative of however long we get to see them on screen. Now, one thing that I'm going to start reiterating a lot in my videos is that Game of Thrones Season 8, no matter how it ends, it's going to be tragic. There's going to be a few characters that we love that will die insanely hard to watch deaths, but then there will also be a few light moments where, you know, we get the sweet part of that bittersweet ending. But you have to remember that Game of Thrones Season 8 will end tragically. There's going to be some sweet moments, but ultimately, it's going to be a tragedy fest, so prepare to grab a box of Kleenex. So, I honestly think that the Direwolves, like many other characters who are off-screen for a long time, they come back to die. Now, we saw Nymeria as sort of like just a refresher course to let us know, hey, this is what she's been doing. This is sort of like a pseudo refresher course because we hadn't seen her on screen in so long. Dan and Dave just sort of reminded us that, hey, Nymeria is still alive. She's the leader of her pack now, and this is going to play a role in the final season. One thing that I think everyone kind of just blew past once we saw Rickon die was the fact that we saw the head of his wolf, Shaggydog, and just assumed that, yes, Shaggydog was officially dead, especially when Rickon did not zigzag and he got loaded full of arrows. Now, if you pay close attention to this direwolf, and I hate even having it on screen right now, but it is just not the size of a direwolf's head. I had actually came up with this theory that this was secretly a ploy that Small John Umber had come up with in order to bait Ramsay into trusting him. Like, sort of like the North remembers, that conspiracy coming, and then the army that Small John Umber controls will turn on Ramsay during the Battle of the Bastards and sort of help out Jon Snow, redeeming himself in the last second, and then telling him, hey, that wasn't an actual direwolf, that was just some regular wolf's head, and we had to, bait Ramsay. But that's obviously not the case. Rickon didn't zigzag, and honestly, seeing Small John Umber on the field, we know that he did not in any way try to help Jon Snow. But it's a little bit silly to have Rickon killed off, confirmed, and buried in the crypts of Winterfell, and then have Shaggydog alive somewhere. Now, I don't think that this is going to play a heavy theme in it, but there's definitely a possibility that Shaggydog is a part of Nymeria's super pack. Remember, that foreshadowing from Jon Snow's wolf dream and him being able to sense exactly where his brothers and sisters are, that could be that GPS, and then Rickon could have sensed something coming and then set his direwolf free, just like how Arya did with Nymeria. Now, I know that is never going to get shown on screen, and I also know that there's a 99.9% chance that that did not happen, but this is still fun to speculate. I'm never going to believe that that was Shaggydog's head on that table until we get confirmation or until the very final end credits roll on the last episode. I definitely think it's more likely that Ghost and Nymeria are with each other. We do know that Nymeria was shown for a reason. We weren't just going to be shown this awesome weapon that Arya potentially has up her sleeve and then it not be utilized. So I think it makes perfect sense for Ghost and Nymeria to be meeting up. When I was doing my research for this video, I came across a lot of fan fictions in which Jon Snow and Arya mate, and they're pretty disturbing. But to summarize, one of them was the fact that we think that Jon Snow works in a ghost once he dies at the end of A Dance with Dragons. When he does so, he ends up going to track down Nymeria, and the two of them mate. Just you have Jon Snow and Arya having sex together, but in direwolf form. This is definitely not going to happen, and the only sort of evidence or leg that it has to stand on is the fact that in the original outline, Jon and Arya were supposed to get together. I think that was passed on to Jaime and Cersei, but also, when the direwolves are younger, Nymeria only lets Ghost mount her. So there's a little bit more foreshadowing, and a lot of people like to use that as Jon Snow and Arya ending up together in the last book. One of the things that I did come across was that if two dogs who are siblings mate, it increases the odds that their offspring will have their shared traits. This is particularly notable when it comes to diseases and genetic defects. So honestly, it breaks down to like this. If Nymeria has one genetic code that gives her a disease but makes it not active, and then Ghost, because they're from the same litter, has that same code but it's not active, then when the two of them mate, those two codes will be passed down to their offspring, so it's more likely for those dogs to have some sort of recessive genetic defect. But let's be real here. This is a make-believe show taking place in the medieval times, and we do know that they do not stray away from incest, and they show it with people. So who's to say they will not show it with dogs? I honestly predict, now throw your tinfoil caps on here, but I honestly predict that Ghost left to go meet up with Nymeria and join her super pack. The two of them will then mate and procure a new line of direwolves that will roam the territory of Winterfell and keep it safe. Ghost and Nymeria will die fighting the dead. They will join and command their super pack of wolves, and they will attack the dead, save Arya, Sansa at the last moment, or just save some member of House Stark. Let me clarify, I'm not saying that I want the direwolves to die, but we do know that Dan and Dave have a history of bringing back characters, showing us, reminding us who they are, and then immediately killing them off. So I don't think this is necessarily the case with the direwolves, but most likely they're going to go out within a blaze of glory. Let's just step back for a second. I don't know about you, but it's incredibly hard for me to watch an animal die on screen, even more so than a person. So if you can just imagine, they have this massive army of direwolves and all of them pretty much die defending House Stark. How hard would that be to watch all of them die on screen? Honestly, harder than watching Daenerys and Jon Snow die at the same time while being stabbed by Cersei, the Night King, with one of his giant ice spears while really sad music plays in the background. So I do think that this is what Dan and Dave have planned for the direwolf army, but I think that their death will mean something. It will not be meaningless like Rickon. It will actually carry some weight, and what they do before they die will definitely help the remaining members of House Stark survive until the end of the story. You guys let me know down below your thoughts on my theory of the GPS tracking system that Ghost and Nymeria may have internally and that maybe some of the other direwolves possess. Also, do you think that Ghost and Nymeria are going to mate and have a survival pack of puppies that shows up right after the final battle? Once everything is all settled and everybody's happy, then you have this random pack of direwolves being showed up and discovered, sort of how like they were way back in Game of Thrones Season 1. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could please slap a like on this video. The like goal will be 420. Also, if you'd like to be entered into my contest to win this $50 Amazon gift card because y'all are so freaking amazing, all you have to do to enter that contest is like this video, leave a comment down below, make sure to subscribe, and go ahead and turn your notifications on so that way you get alerted every time I drop a Game of Thrones video. Also, check the gleam.io link down below in the description and in the pinned comment at the top of this video to go ahead and enter all the different bonus ways. Super special shout out to every single member of my Patreon family over at patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. Without all of your support, these kinds of videos would not be possible. Super special shout out to Terry. He is the executive producer of this video, and without him, this kind of content would also not be possible. If you are interested in joining my Patreon and showing some support, because now I'm officially full-time here on YouTube, you can check the link down below or check the link right up here. My name's Mark. I want to thank you all again so much for watching. This has been Sir Hunt's Reviews.